Former U.S. Secretary of State Henry Kissinger once said, who controls oil controls nations.
Right, which sounds like, just a dramatic quote for a history textbook.
Yeah, exactly. But today, we're taking you to the absolute center of the global stage, where that abstract theory, well, it actually turned into a live, highly volatile military operation.
Yeah, an operation that almost pushed us right over the edge into a full-scale war.
Right. Imagine you are standing on the bridge of a billion-dollar U.S. Navy destroyer. It's the pitch black of night. You've got the most advanced radar systems ever engineered.
Oh, yeah.
But suddenly your screens just light up. And it's not a comparable enemy warship. It's like 50 cheap speedboats coming at you from every direction at 60 miles an hour.
And they're absolutely not slowing down.
No, they aren't. So today on this deep dive, we are unpacking the intense standoff between the United States under President Donald Trump and Iran.
We're really looking at what happens when traditional military dominance collides with, unpredictable asymmetric warfare.
Exactly. And to do this, we're pulling from some incredibly detailed sources. We've got on-the-ground reporting from Reuters, hard data from the U.S. Energy Information Administration, and some really rigorous strategic analysis from places like the Center for Strategic and International Studies, the Hudson Institute, and the Middle East Institute.
Yeah, plus some great tactical breakdowns from the Center for Naval Analyses.
Right. So our mission today is to look at how political assumptions from a superpower completely crashed into the operational reality of the Strait of Hormuz.
Which is, it's arguably the most vital waterway on the planet.
It really is.
Yeah.
So let's lay out the stakes here. According to the U.S. Energy Information Administration, roughly 20% of the global oil trade passes through this one narrow stretch of water.
20%. That is a massive chunk of the global economy.
Yeah. Think of it like a single two-lane toll booth for a sprawling international highway.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
Right. Because the shipping lanes there are only about 2 miles wide in either direction. So you don't need to destroy the whole highway to stop traffic.
No, you just park one broken down car in front of the toll booth.
Exactly. Or, in this case, you sink one commercial vessel, and suddenly the entire global supply chain backs up for thousands of miles.
And we saw that happen, right? When Iran threatened to close the strait and target vessels, the markets just panicked. Oil prices surged past $100 a barrel almost overnight.
Which is why this isn't just some abstract geopolitical chess game. Like, if that toll booth closes, the price of the fuel you buy skyrockets.
Yeah, groceries double in price, retirement accounts take a hit, it hits your wallet instantly.
Right. So the U.S. objective was incredibly clear. Reopen the strait, by force if necessary, to prevent a global economic shock.
But the Trump administration's strategy was, well, a bit counterintuitive. They used something called conditional escalation.
Right, they gave Iran a 48-hour ultimatum. Like, open the strait or we destroy your energy infrastructure. But, and this is the weird part, they delayed the actual strike to leave a, quote, chance for a deal.
Yeah.
Which, I have to ask, if the stakes are literally global economic ruin, why on earth did Washington offer a 2-day delay instead of just, immediately neutralizing the threat?
Well, it comes down to traditional deterrence logic. The U.S. was trying to apply military pressure for negotiation. It was a calculated gamble.
Gamble to avoid an actual war.
Exactly. The logic in Washington was that an immediate massive strike would guarantee a full-scale regional war. So by putting a 48-hour clock on the table, they were trying to use the absolute certainty of overwhelming force to change Iran's behavior.
Like showing them the loaded gun, but saying, hey, we really prefer a diplomatic off-ramp here.
Right, without actually having to drop the bombs. But that delay didn't last.
No, it didn't. On March 19th, the U.S. launched an air campaign. But they didn't go after the massive infrastructure right away, did they?
No, the initial targets were very specific. They hit Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, fast boats, drone launch sites, and naval mine deployment platforms.
So they were basically trying to disarm them.
Yeah, Western military analysts call it disabling capability. They wanted to surgically remove the physical tools Iran was using to harass the shipping lanes, but without, occupying territory.
Right, but surgical precision rarely holds up in reality, because this operation quickly expanded.
Oh,
right?
Drastically.
Right.
The targeting shifted toward Karg Island.
Which, for context, Karg Island is basically the main artery of Iran's oil export industry.
Yeah, it's their economic lifeline. The U.S. ended up striking over 90 targets in the region.
Wow, 90 targets.
Yep, and they deployed 5,000 U.S. troops nearby. Washington even started openly discussing a blockade or even direct control of the island.
Wait, really? So we're moving from just like swatting away threats in the water to literally trying to strangle their national wallet.
Exactly. It was a massive shift in military thinking, going from containing a maritime threat to imposing direct economic control.
But taking Karg Island, I mean, how close did we actually get to putting American boots on the ground for a ground intervention there?
Dangerously close. There were high-level discussions about sending U.S. Marines to capture strategic islands and ports.
That sounds like a logistical nightmare.
It's the most extreme option. You're transitioning from a standoff campaign where your pilots and sailors are relatively safe to a physical ground presence. Taking an
Mhm.
island like that fundamentally alters the conflict from maritime security to uh, total economic strangulation.
Right, and historically, quick exits from Middle Eastern ground operations just don't happen.
No, they do not.
But here's the crazy part. Despite this massive response, 90 targets, thousands of troops, an ultimatum, it didn't actually force Iran to back down.
No. And this is where the reporting from Reuters really shines a light on Washington's strategic blind spot.
Yeah, Reuters highlighted analysis from a former U.S. diplomat, Alan Ayer. He argued that the whole 48-hour ultimatum was a huge miscalculation.
Right, because it completely failed to account for Iran's readiness to escalate.
Exactly. And then Alex Vitaka from the Middle East Institute noted that Iran actually surprised the U.S. by just absorbing the punishment and continuing to fight without restraint.
Yeah, they escalated to restore their own deterrence balance.
It honestly sounds like Washington brought a chess master to a poker game.
Oh, I like that analogy.
Right. Like the U.S. was expecting these logical, gradual, step-by-step moves, but Iran was willing to just go all in on every single hand to force a fold.
That's exactly it. Ayer and Vitanka's viewpoints highlight this massive gap between political assumptions and operational reality. Washington thought gradual pressure would slowly force compliance.
Make them cry, uncle?
Right, but Iran operates on a doctrine of calculated risk. They prove that gradual pressure completely fails against an opponent who is actually willing to escalate quickly.
Because to the Iranian leadership, backing down under pressure is an existential threat to their survival.
Exactly.
Which brings us to a huge realization about their tactics. Despite the U.S. claiming they destroyed all these major capabilities, Reuters noted that the airstrikes primarily hit known targets.
Yeah, concrete bases, stationary launch pads.
Right. But we know from the analysis by the Center for Strategic and International Studies, and specifically the work of Brian Clark at the Hudson Institute, that Iran's military doesn't even rely on fixed bases.
No, their entire naval structure is built on decentralization, rapid repositioning.
Meaning they don't just line up their boats at a dock waiting to get bombed.
Exactly. Brian Clark explains that successfully hitting large, fixed targets actually creates a false sense of control for the U.S.
A false sense of control.
Yeah, because a commander looks at a satellite image of a smoking crater and says, great, we won that tactical engagement. But Iran's true threat is rapid regeneration. They use small, distributed units. They hide mobile platforms in commercial fishing ports or, conceal assets in mountain tunnels.
Wait, so the U.S. dropping bombs on 90 targets might have actually done nothing but just scatter the hive?
In many ways, yes. Completely neutralizing their naval power from the air is pretty much an illusion.
Because their military wasn't built to win a traditional symmetrical naval battle.
No, it was built for disruption, attrition, cost imposition.
Cost imposition.
Yeah.
Making the environment so incredibly dangerous and expensive that the U.S. just decides it's not worth it.
Exactly.
So if they survive the strikes by scattering the hive, what horrifying tools do they actually still have hidden away?
Well, the sources outline 3 major asymmetric options that are still very much on the table.
Okay, let's go through them. The first one is mine warfare, right?
Yeah, according to the International Institute for Strategic Studies, and we're not talking about those old, rusty, spiky iron balls floating on the water.
Right, I was reading this. They have smart mines.
Exactly. They sit silently on the ocean floor, completely passive. They're programmed to listen for the specific acoustic and magnetic signature of, say, a massive U.S. destroyer or an oil tanker.
Wow. So they just ignore normal boats.
Yeah, a wooden fishing boat floats by, nothing happens. But a high-value target passes overhead and boom.
And they can be remotely activated or just rapidly redeployed by some tiny speedboat.
Right, which makes clearing a shipping lane almost impossible to guarantee.
Okay, that's terrifying. What's the second option?
Swarm attacks. The Center for Naval Analyses did a deep dive on this. It's basically a math problem called defensive saturation.
Like overloading the ship's defenses.
Yeah. A modern warship can track hundreds of targets, but its physical guns can only shoot down a finite number of threats per second. So, Iran sends dozens of fast boats and suicide maritime drones all at once from every direction.
So even if the ship shoots down 45 of them, 5 still get through.
Exactly. It's a synchronized hybrid threat.
And if you're wondering why you, the listener, should care about some small boats halfway across the world, just imagine dozens of cheap suicide drones paralyzing the massive cargo ships that carry the fuel you buy.
Yeah.
The ripple effect hits your wallet instantly.
It really does. Which brings us to the third asymmetric tool, coastal missiles.
Right. These are the mobile concealed launchers.
Yeah, anti-ship cruise missiles mounted on the back of trucks that look like regular commercial vehicles. They use shoot and scoot tactics.
Meaning they drive out of a tunnel, fire, and hide again before a jet can even lock onto them.
Precisely. And Michael Knights assessed this whole dynamic perfectly. He pointed out that Iran doesn't need to fight traditional battles at all.
They just need to mix these 3 tools: the mines, the swarms, the coastal missiles.
Right, just to create an unsafe maritime environment. And Knight's core warning is that the real challenge for the U.S. isn't responding to an attack.
Right. We can launch a devastating strike whenever we want.
Exactly. The challenge is sustaining that response over a long period. Iran is betting on a long game of attrition, just bleeding the U.S. financially and strategically.
While Washington is desperately seeking a quick, clean resolution so they can focus on other global issues.
Yeah, exactly.
So to distill all this down, the U.S. clearly has overwhelming military superiority. They can destroy any fixed target on Earth.
Right.
But Iran has the ultimate power of disruption. Winning militarily just isn't enough anymore. A nation actually has to endure the ongoing cost of that victory.
And that cost is astronomical.
It really is. Which leaves us with one final, incredibly provocative thought to consider.
Yeah.
If a superpower's traditional military might struggles to permanently neutralize a decentralized, asymmetric network of cheap drones and small boats in the Gulf, what does that mean for the future of global warfare as these cheap, easily reproducible technologies fall into the hands of non-state actors everywhere?
Oh, wow. Yeah, the barrier to entry for global disruption is just getting lower and lower.
It really is. Something to think about. Well, thank you all for joining us as we unpack the sources on today's deep dive.
It's been a great discussion.
We will be back soon to explore the next complex issue. Until then, stay curious.